Welcome to Rooster AM. My name is Ryan Nelson. Some of you guys are back. Sometimes some of y'all, this is your first time, so I just want to say welcome. And I'm just going to talk about my week. I have had an interesting week. Probably one of the wildest, craziest weeks that I've had maybe in my life. And so I'm going to share a little bit about this week and how it came to be. So, a few months ago, I'm sitting at home, and this young lady, she knocks on my door. I answer the door. She says, "We're looking to do a movie, and we're thinking about shooting a movie in Enid, and we're canvassing houses to see maybe if your house would be a fit for the movie." So I brought him inside, and we walked around, and it was the production team. It was the writer, the director, the producers. I walked him around my home, and as we were walking around, I was showing them pictures of my family, and one of the pictures stood out. It was my son. Some of you guys may not know this, but my son is adopted. And we adopted him, and he was Native American, so it's pretty obviously that he is not my natural born son. And we start talking about his story and how he came to our care. And this woman starts to cry. And she picks up this picture and she goes, "Oh my goodness, it's Hawk. It's Hawk, the character of the movie." I'm not going to spoil any details of the script. I'll just tell you that it reflects a lot of my son's own journey on finding his way to Enid and becoming adopted. So there was a lot of similarities. And when she found out, she just looked at me and said, "Listen, I want to make sure that he's in our movie." And so we were like, that's a great idea. We would love that. And so I kind of hounded them to make sure that they didn't forget about my son, and they never did. And they finally had him come out on the set, and he was a background part of a locker room scene or a high school scene where they're by their lockers. And after that, we thought it was done. Then we get another email and says, "We'd like him to come back out again." And so we brought him out again to another location where he was going to be a background actor again. But this time, when we walked in the building, I was walking across the Stride Center floor, and this lady walks up to me. Her name is Judy, and I'm supposed to remind everybody who's listening that she's very much looks like Selma Hayek. But Judy comes up to me, and she says, "How tall are you?" And I said, "Oh, between 5'8" and 5'9". And she goes, "Well, today you're going to be 5'7". And I said, "Okay." She goes, "You're going to be a stand-in." I wasn't looking for that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, "What's a stand-in?" She goes, "They'll tell you." "Do you mind doing it?" "No, not at all. If it's going to help Enid, it's going to help this movie, sure, I'll do whatever you need." So we go over to this location, and as I'm sitting at the location, they're telling me to stand places, and they're putting the camera on me. A person walks up next to me and just kind of grabs my elbow. And I'm actually trying to act like him. So I look kind of stupid, but I'm like, "I'm Martin Sheen." And he hits my elbow and he turns and he goes, "Hi, my name is Martin Sheen." And I was like, "Oh my goodness, my name is Ryan Nelson." And actually, I said, "Holy cow." We'll use the PG version of it, but I said, "Holy cow. That's Martin Sheen." I was the stand in for Martin Sheen, the star of the show. And it was really incredible because I was thinking, wow, if I just get to sit in here for 10, 15 minutes and watch this legend do a scene, my day has been made. So I sit there and I watch him do this scene, and I sit over in this booth. And when the scene's over, you have directors, you have other actors, you have other stars in the room, you have the writers, producers. And here comes Martin. He just walks around this little area, and he comes over and he sits right next to me. And I'm sitting like, what in the world is Martin Sheen doing sitting next to me? I'm a nobody. Well, me and him start talking. And again, I love it because I wasn't paid. So when I got out there and started working, they didn't care. too much about what I did or what I didn't do. They had this paperwork that you filled out that said, like, you can't take pictures, you can't do this, you can't share plot lines. But I was like, I'm not even getting paid, so it doesn't really matter. But I was going to respect everything that they had put out there, except this moment when I was talking with Martin. And after we talked for about 45 minutes, I leaned over and I said, Martin, would it be uncool if I asked for a picture with you? And I love his response. He leaned forward and he goes, Pastor, it'd be uncool if you didn't. And he gets up, and in the middle of their scene, he stops and he goes, come over here. And we take a picture together, just me and Martin. And then he pulls out his camera and wants to take a picture himself of us both. And it was such a kind moment for him to do that. So I go back to the Stride Center when they're done shooting, and I'm so jacked up about this, but I'm like, nobody's going to believe me. No one's going to believe that Martin Sheen just sat down with me for 45 minutes to an hour and just talked about life and movies and just our families. But that's what we did. And then I'm sitting there with my wife and my son because they'd been waiting all day because they were going to shoot the scene with my son. And I come in and I'm like, you guys won't believe that I just sat with Martin Sheen for like 45 minutes. I was like, no one's going to believe this. No one's going to believe it. And no kidding, 5 minutes after I say that, Martin walks in and he comes over and he sits down and he starts eating with my family. And we start talking. And over the next 3 days, I'm his stand in. And what he doesn't realize, and many people don't realize, is that I have been going through quite a bit in my life over the past few months. And you really think about people that in your life that you think care the most about you. These are people who should come by and check on you or pray for you or be there for you. And these people never show up. But what's wild is Martin did. He showed up where I was. And I had a great time with him. And I got to share gospel with him, the gospel of grace. He got to share with me his favorite Bible verses. And this was one of my favorite parts of the week is we were standing on the corner of Independence and Randolph in Enid, Oklahoma. And he taught me a old Shaker hymn. And we sat out and sang this hymn on the street for people. And I was just blown away. The amount of time, the wisdom, and the kindness that he showed me and my family. It was such a touching moment that at the end of the shoot, he walked up in front of all the cast and crew and he said one of his favorite moments of shooting this movie was the pastor. I don't even know if he really knew my full name until then. He just referred to me as the pastor. How odd is that? A pastor from Oklahoma, the Bible Belt, hanging out with a Hollywood actor from California. And we created such a special bond. You're thinking, well, you might be thinking more, some people get starstruck and they get these ideas of something, but this is how awesome it was. When we leave, Martin says, I want to be on your podcast. So he's going to be coming on soon. And he gave me access to where I could contact him so that when the credits roll from this movie, our relationship won't die. I look back and I was thinking about this. Two of my favorite movies of all time was The Godfather, and my number two is Apocalypse Now. And he was in Apocalypse Now. And you would say, oh, you're just saying that, right? Because it's Martin Sheen, right? You hung out with him. That's just not true. It's odd because I'm a collector of some watches. And I had the Captain Willard watch from Apocalypse Now. And it's the same watch that Martin Sheen wore in the movie, the same model and design. And at the end of the shoot, Noah, he's this new young actor, and I can tell you guys right now, he is something special. Um, he comes over to my house. He's ready to do the podcast with me. Production says that we have to wait, but he's going to do it. Um, but he comes over to my house, and so I give him that Captain Willard watch that I had because his very first movie was with the legendary Martin Sheen. So I gave him the legendary watch that Martin Sheen wore in Apocalypse Now, the Oscar nominated film. I was just blown away by the week. But it even got better. On the final day, I'm sitting in the trailer or the train, and I lean forward, and the writer's there, and her name is Erin Elizabeth Cook. And oh my goodness, is she not? If anybody ever has a chance to meet and talk with her, she is something special. Her heart for servanthood, her love for the truth. It's intoxicating. It's fun to be around her. And my wife was having a good time with her. They were talking. And I just kind of off the cuff said, "Why don't you put my wife in the movie?" She goes, "You know what? Let's do it." And so she takes my wife and takes her down to the scene. I'm not going to spoil it, but they put her in the movie, but not just in the movie, but a prominent spot. And oh my goodness, what a blessing that was for her. My whole family got blessed by this movie, starting with Aaron, going to Noah. Noah spent 45 minutes with my son, wrote him a kind letter and left it here at the house. And then with me and Martin, what's really cool is at the end of the day, I asked Martin, would you both be okay if I was to write a small book called Martin and Me? And he goes, of course you can. Because I'm only sharing with you little bits and pieces of our week together. He truly inspired me. I hope I inspired him. I know that I will probably be on News 9 soon because they wanted to do a story about Martin and me. But it was such an incredible time. He was like a grandpa with all of that wisdom. And what I thought was special was I got to spend time sharing with him what I believe of the gospel, and he got to spend time sharing with me about life. Hopefully, we were there for each other. It was a good experience. And if you do have time, I would encourage you to go watch the movie The One. And just know while you're watching it, Martin was doing more than shooting a movie that day. He was making a pastor in Enid, America feel special. Thank you guys for joining me today on Rooster AM.